بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله النبي الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه أجمعين وبعد. Alhamdulillah, we continue from this point. Now we commence with an important aspect, and that is which we refer to in the Arabic language as sajda sahu, the prostration of forgetfulness, the prostration which we would need to make after a person makes a mistake. Now, what type of mistake would require a sajda and what type of mistake would not require a sajda? That will be discussed. Firstly, what makes this sajda necessary is if a person misses out a wajib act. Now we had discussed what are the wajib acts, or in fact it is in our booklets and on the slides, one of the previous slides of the entire list of wajib acts. We mentioned that we've got the fard, the compulsory acts. Thereafter we've got one category below that, that is the wajib. Now fard, if a person misses it out by mistake, right? A fard is like such as in the standing position. If a person forgets to go into the standing position, as an example, then he cannot fix it up. Or if a person perhaps only makes one sajda, one prostration, and thereafter stands up, he is now reaching the end of his prayer, he cannot now fix that up. Why? Because it was a fard, it was a compulsory act that was missed out. But when it comes to the wajib, the necessary act, then a person is able to then fix it up later. So what does he do? He perhaps misses out a certain wajib. If we look at that list as an example, the examples of that. Thereafter he continues his prayer, he realizes that he has missed it out. Then he will perform the sajda at the end of the prayer. Another time is if a person delays a fard, if he delays a compulsory act. Now how would he do that? That would happen if a person adds something into his prayer. So as an example, alright, when we commence our Salah, right, we will recite the Thana, Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika wa tabarak ismuka wa ta'ala jadduka wa la ilaha ghayruk. As we had discussed in the practical Salah, we will say A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. We then recite Surah Al-Fatiha, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, that entire chapter. Thereafter we recite at least 3 short verses of Quran. So we recite that. And thereafter, if a person now starts to recite something else, forgetfully, unmindfully, he starts to recite something else. Perhaps another supplication. He starts to recite At-Tahiyyatu lillahi wa salawatu wa tayyibat. Now what happens there? He's delaying the ruku'. He's delaying the bowing position. And so that is when a sajda would be required. So if a person misses out a wajib, or if a person delays a fard, a compulsory act, then a person would be required to perform the sajda. How do we do that? We go till the end of our prayer, till the end of our salah, and in the last sitting, we will recite the At-Tahiyyatu lillahi wa salawatu wa tayyibat. That entire supplication we will read. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Once we complete that, we will make salam to one side. We turn our head to the right and we say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Thereafter we turn our head back to the front and we say Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, we go into our first sajda. We come up, Allahu Akbar, sit for a little while, and thereafter go into our second sajda, Allahu Akbar. Thereafter we come up from that sajda and now we again in our last sitting. In our last sitting now we will recite the At-Tahiyyat again, recite the Salawat, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, right, as well as the dua, and thereafter complete the prayer as normal. So sajda as-sahu is to fix up a mistake. If a person misses out a wajib act or he delays a fard, a person would be required to perform the sajda as-sahu. Right. Now a question one may ask is that I had made multiple mistakes. So a person delayed a fard as well as missed out a wajib and then missed out a second wajib. Here, what do we then do? If there are multiple mistakes, one sajda would fix it up. Obviously, when we say one sajda, it is a set of two sajdas, right? So that one sajda as-sahu would then fix it up. So we wouldn't have to do it multiple times because we had multiple mistakes, but one sajda would be in place of multiple errors. So that is with regards to sajda sahu. We then go on to our 5 salahs, our 5 prayers for the day. When it comes to our 5 salahs, our 5 prayers for the day, then we've got our fard prayers, but accompanying our 5 prayers, we have the sunnah, we have wajib, and we have nafil. Now each one has its place, and we will discuss that. So one is our fard prayer. So let us look at the fajr prayer, the early morning prayer. We have our 2 units of fard, but prior to that, we have a 2 units which is sunnah. Now this is an emphasized sunnah. It's emphasized sunnah, meaning we should not leave it out. Now we will be discussing in shortly with regards to when a person is traveling and the prayer when a person is traveling. There a person could leave out the sunnah prayers. However, the sunnah of fajr, that is this 2 units of before the fard prayer of fajr, the early morning prayer, that is so emphasized that even when traveling a person should not leave it out. Alright, so we have that 2, and thereafter we have the 2 units of fard. After a person performs his fard, until after the sun rises, it is not correct for a person to perform any prayers. He should not be performing any prayers there. Right. Then we go at the dhuhr prayer. The dhuhr prayer, we have first the 4 units which are emphasized. 4 units which are emphasized. Alright, so it's not as emphasized as the 2 of fajr. So what does that mean? When you are traveling, you can leave it out. However, in normal circumstances, all the emphasized sunnah prayers should be performed. It is actually a sin for a person to leave it out. So we perform the 4 emphasized sunnah. We thereafter follow that up with the 4 fard, which we perform in congregation, and thereafter the 2 emphasized sunnah. So that is what we need to do. These 10 units we need to perform. Thereafter, we could add another 2, which is regarded as nafil. Nafil is optional, so it would be good to do it, and leaving it out would be no harm. Alright, then we look at our asr. The asr is the 4 before the 4 sunnah. This is not emphasized. So it's not emphasized, however, it enjoys great virtue. So if a person leaves it out, that individual will not be sinful. However, it enjoys great reward. With the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ mentioned that may Almighty Allah have mercy upon the person who performs the 4 rakat, the 4 units, the sunnah units before the fard prayer of asr. So here he supplicated for the person who performs this, and this is something of virtue. Thereafter we have the 4 fard, the 4 compulsory acts, compulsory units. Thereafter, from that point until after the sun sets, until the maghrib prayer, from that point, from the time you performed your asr prayer until the sun sets, a person should not be performing any prayer at that time. So just like we are bound not to perform prayer after the fard of fajr, after the fard of asr, we also should not be performing. Thereafter we come to the maghrib prayer. Maghrib, there is nothing before the fard congregational prayer. So the call for prayer, the adhan will take place, and thereafter immediately we will start with the 3 units which are fard. Thereafter we perform 2 units which are sunnah and emphasized. Alright, these are the emphasized sunnah, and so we should not leave that out. Thereafter we go to the isha. Alright, isha, we have our 4 units which is sunnah. Again, it is not emphasized, and so if a person leaves it out, a person would not be sinful. If a person performs it, it would be great. Then we come our 4 fard, which we perform in congregation, followed by the 2 units, which are sunnah, emphasized. Here, this should not be left out. Thereafter, we have 2 nafil, 2 optional units. This could be performed, it would be great. If left out, it is still fine. Thereafter, we have the 3 wajib. Now, we mentioned that wajib enjoys the status of being necessary. So, leaving it out is definitely a sin. Wajib is a category just below fard, so it should not be left out. So, here are the 3 wajib. We will discuss that very shortly. And thereafter, we follow that up with the 2 nafil. There again, we can perform it, it will be great. If we leave it out, it is fine. Now we have a narration, a statement of the Prophet Muhammad, which is narrated in the book Tirmidhi. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ mentioned that whoever performs the 12 units of optional prayer along with the fard prayers, compulsory prayers, Almighty Allah will build a house for him in paradise. Thereafter, the Prophet Muhammad mentioned all these emphasized optional prayers. So the 2 of Fajr, the 4 of Dhuhr, the 2 of Dhuhr as well, the 2 of Maghrib, and the 2 of Isha. He mentioned these units or these prayers, emphasizing the importance of it, and that is why we regard it as an emphasized prayer. So it should not be left out. And obviously we see the great virtue that Almighty Allah will build for that person a home in paradise. And so if we are regular upon it, then it will serve as a guarantee for us of entry into the gardens of paradise. May Allah make us from amongst them. Right. Now when it comes to the optional prayer, we mentioned that if a person performs it, it is great. If a person leaves it out, one is not sinful. However, one of the primary functions of these nafil, these optional prayers, is that it serves as a protection for the emphasized sunnah as well as for the fard prayers. Now, if a person is regular with the performance of all the prayers stated on the screen, then if one is perhaps feeling ill or feeling lazy or feeling weak, then what would we do? We might leave out the optional prayer. Alright? And then we will perform the fard, compulsory, we'll perform the emphasized sunnah, and we'll perform our wajib. But if a person is sufficing on the bare minimum, where he's only performing his fard and his emphasized sunnah, then when the day he feels lazy, there is fear that he might actually leave out the emphasized sunnah. So this is serving as a protection. And then in the last situation is, the person is not performing his emphasized sunnah, then there is definite fear that he might actually even leave out his fard in the case where he is in a bit of a difficult situation. So it is of importance that we try to perform as much as we can. We mentioned with regards to the 3 units of witr, which is wajib. Alright. So this is after the Isha prayer. Let's go back to the slide. So this is after the Isha, after the 4 units of fard Isha, right? Then we performing what we refer to as witr wajib. It is wajib, necessary. It is witr. Witr means it's an odd number. So it is 3 units. Every other or most of the other prayers are 2 or 4. This is 3. Now the status is that it is wajib. It consists of 3 units, 3 rakats, and it's got a slight difference. We will perform the first unit as normal, perform the second unit as normal, go into the sitting position. We will thereafter stand up for the third unit. Now in the third unit, we will recite Surah Al-Fatiha. We will thereafter recite a surah, and thereafter we will say Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Whilst we saying Allahu Akbar, we raise our hands, and thereafter tie it up again. So Allahu Akbar, and tie it up again. Keep in the standing position, and thereafter we recite the dua we see on the screen. Allahumma inna nasta'inuka wa nastaghfiruka wa nu'minu bika wa natawakkalu alayka wa nuthni alayka al-khayr wa nashkuruka wa la nakfuruka wa nakhla'u wa natruku man yafturuk. Allahumma iyyaka na'budu wa laka nusalli wa nasjudu wa ilayka nas'a wa nahfidu wa narju rahmataka wa nakhsha 'adhabak inna 'adhabaka bil kuffari mulhiq. This is supplication that we should learn. Now, the performance of these three units is wajib, is necessary. And the supplication of this dua is also a wajib, it is necessary. So we should learn it, it is important. Right. Now, if a person finds, this is now a typical example where we said it is wajib, right, to recite this supplication. Now what happens if a person is performing, he performs his first unit, his second unit. Now in the third unit, after reciting the surah, he forgets to perform that. He forgets to say Allahu Akbar and recite this supplication, and he goes immediately into the bowing position. Alright? This can happen to many of us, right? Because normally after the recitation of the verses of Quran, we go into ruku, we go into the bowing position, and so it could happen to us that we forget. Here now what do we do? Once we're in the ruku, the bowing position, we do not come up again. Why? Because the bowing position is a fard position. It is compulsory, and this is wajib. Fard is a higher position than wajib, and so we will not go back to a wajib position, a lower position. We will stay in our ruku, continue the prayer as normal, and then perform the sajda sahu, the sajda of forgetfulness, of fixing up. Right. So that is with regards to our 5 prayers and all that which is linked to it. Now we go on to our Friday prayers. Now throughout the week we have our Dhuhr prayer. On a Friday it is slightly different. Alright, let's quickly look at that. Let's go back to our slide. We had on a normal Dhuhr we had the 4, thereafter 4, 2 and 2. On a Friday we have our 4, which is emphasized. Thereafter the fard, the compulsory is 2 units, followed by 2 emphasized and 4, another 4 which is emphasized. Right? So therein what is necessary on a Friday would be the 4 sunnah plus the 2 fard which is in congregation, which makes it 6. Right? Plus the 2 sunnah emphasized, which now makes it 8, plus another 4 emphasized, which now makes it 12. So that is necessary, and thereafter we can add the nafil, the optional 2 as well. Alright. But besides that, what we find is that we have the Arabic khutbah. But before that, let's just follow the sequence that we're finding on the slide. Firstly, the day of Friday is an important day. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ has mentioned to us that on a Friday that we should take a bath, a person should wear good clothes, apply some nice perfume, clip his nails, remove all unwanted hair. This is all preparing oneself for the Friday prayer. So we try to do it before the Friday prayer. And thereafter we also increase in salawat upon Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now that is to say, we're saying sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that is a gift we're sending to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we try to increase in salawat, in sending the supplications or salutations upon Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then the verse of Quran explains that إِذَا نُودِيَ لِلصَّلَاةِ مِنْ يَوْمِ الْجُمُعَةِ فَاسْعَوْا, that when the call for the prayer takes place, then you should rush towards it, وَذَرُوا الْبَيْعَ, and leave business. Leave all your business transactions. And so it is compulsory that a person leaves all business transactions and a person goes for the Friday prayer. When it comes to the other prayers throughout the week, it is necessary, it is important for us to perform our prayers in congregation. But if a person continues and a person continues his business transactions, then leaving out the prayer is a sin, but the business transaction itself is not sinful. But when it comes to the Friday prayer, here continuing business transactions would be sinful. In fact, our scholars would also explain that the income earned during that time could also be an impermissible income. It could be an impermissible income because we were bound to go to the mosque, go to the masjid and perform the prayers. Here, it is required to leave all business transactions for all those upon whom the Friday prayer is compulsory. Now, the Friday prayer is compulsory on male adults. When it comes to women, then it would not be a compulsory upon them, and so they could perhaps continue whatever they are involved in. A similar situation is if a person is running a filling station. As an example, if a person is running his filling station, all his Muslim staff go to the masjid, to the mosque. All those who are not Muslim as yet, they could continue running the filling station because the Jumu'ah prayer is not compulsory upon them. They are not yet Muslim. Alright. So it would be required that whatever we are involved in, we leave it immediately and we go for the Friday prayer. There, what is required is that we are there for the Arabic khutbah, the Arabic lecture. Here the Prophet Muhammad mentions regarding the importance is that whoever takes a bath on Friday then sets out early. He is present at the beginning of the khutbah of the lecture and is close to the Imam. He then listens attentively, then he will get the reward of fasting and praying for one entire year. So every Friday we can gain this reward by preparing ourselves, going early for the prayer, attending in our South African context or in many parts of the world to attend the English lecture as well, and thereafter be present for the Arabic khutbah. Now the Arabic khutbah is necessary. That is equivalent to the 2 units which we are left, which was reduced. Right? Normally on for a Dhuhr prayer, the mid-afternoon prayer, we're performing 4 units of compulsory units. Here on a Friday now we're leaving those 2 out. We're only performing 2 in congregation, and so our scholars explain that the khutbah, the Arabic lecture, is equivalent to those 2 units. Where in other narrations we learn the importance of not talking, not even telling another person to be silent, not interfering with anything in front of you, where the Prophet Muhammad mentioned that even in those days there were stones in front of them, so to play with the stones would also be incorrect, but rather what we are bound to do is to listen attentively. And then comes the prayer. We mentioned that the 4 rakats of Dhuhr is replaced with 2 rakats of Jumu'ah. So the congregational prayer that we're performing together is 2 instead of 4. So this is with regards to the Friday prayer. Then we go on to another few important prayers that we could add to our lives. These are prayers, these are all optional, but the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had performed, and there is great virtue to it. Alright? When it comes to Salatul Taraweeh, I mentioned that it is optional, but Salatul Taraweeh is not optional. It is an emphasized sunnah. Right? It is an emphasized sunnah, and so it is necessary to perform. It is 20 units that is performed in the month of Ramadan. After the Isha prayer, we stand for 20 units, and thereafter we will perform in congregation the Witr Wajib. So normally the Witr Wajib, which we had discussed, the three units with the extra supplication, that we normally perform throughout the year on our own, individually. But in the month of Ramadan, we perform it in congregation. Now, with regards to the Taraweeh prayer, The Prophet Muhammad mentioned that whoever prays Qiyam in Ramadan out of faith and in hope of reward, his previous sins will be forgiven. So this is of importance. We then find that Qiyamul Layl, the Tahajjud, that is also an important aspect throughout the year. I wouldn't want to go into each of this here. We've got our booklets, you got it on the screen as well. You can view the virtues attached to that. Salatul Ishraq is the early morning prayer, just after the sun rises. Thereafter, we have a few hours later, once the sun has risen, we now perform the Salatul Duha. Then, once a person enters into the masjid, we perform a 2 units, which is Tahiyyatul Masjid. Alright? Then the Salatul Tawbah. If a person commits a sin, we now perform a 2 rak'ats of prayer, seeking the forgiveness from Almighty Allah. And this is something that we should make part of our life. We thereafter have the Salat al-Janaza. Salat al-Janaza is to a prayer to Almighty Allah for the dead person. Once a person has passed away, then we place his body in front and we stand in rows, and a person will lead us, the Imam will lead us in this prayer, which is a prayer to Almighty Allah, making dua, supplicating for the deceased person. If we go into in South African context, if you go to one of our Janaza Salah rooms, where this prayer is performed in the graveyard, then the entire process is explained. There, in majority of the places, there are boards explaining it. Then we have istikhara. Now, istikhara is an important supplication and is important prayer as well. It is if a person is seeking a good decision from Almighty Allah. So he wants to, generally, if a person wants to go into a major business deal, a person wants to get married, is this person the right person for me or not? Is this business transaction the right thing for me to do or not? Then he should make wudu, perform the 2 units. Thereafter, there is a supplication to be made, and thereafter go to bed. This is a way of seeking goodness from Almighty Allah. The supplication would be found in the books of du'as. If a person should require that supplication, you can drop us an email, and we will gladly send you the supplication as well. So those are all the du'as.